All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going deep beneath the surface, exploring the ocean's food chain.
A fascinating world down there.
It really is, and surprisingly fragile, too. We'll be unpacking all of this using this source, The Fragile Food Chain You Never Knew Existed.
A great read.
Yeah, I thought so too. It really opened my eyes to just how much what happens in the ocean impacts everyone.
Right, even those of us miles from the coast.
Exactly. I think we often forget that what happens out there doesn't just stay out there.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Like this delicate web of life. It affects our climate, the food we eat, even the air we breathe.
You know, it's wild when you really think about it. Like, did you know over half of the Earth's oxygen comes from these tiny plants in the ocean?
Incredible, right?
It is. And then there's the role that, get this, whale poop plays in keeping the whole system running.
Yes. Nature's fertilizer. But to really get this whole food chain thing, we need to start at the bottom with the phytoplankton.
Those tiny plants, right?
Exactly. Microscopic powerhouses. They're the foundation of it all.
The foundation.
Yeah, I mean, they're not just producing oxygen. They're feeding the zooplankton, which then feed everything else, from krill to small fish and so on up the chain.
So it all starts with those tiny plants. Speaking of which, I've always been fascinated by krill.
Those little shrimp-like creatures, right?
Yeah. They're like, what, the main course for a lot of the ocean's bigger creatures?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Vital food source for whales, penguins, seals, you name it.
So they're pretty important then.
Absolutely. Except there's a bit of a problem. They're facing some serious challenges.
Really? What kind of challenges?
Well, overfishing is a big one. And then, with the ocean getting warmer, their habitats, the icy places they depend on, those are shrinking.
So their numbers are going down.
Yeah. And that's a problem for everything that eats them.
Makes sense. Like, I've heard some whale populations are changing their feeding grounds because they can't find enough krill.
Exactly. It's a domino effect.
Yeah.
You know, another example, sardines. They might seem small and insignificant.
But they're not.
Definitely not. They're crucial. They feed so many other creatures. Larger fish, even us humans.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but just like krill, they're also declining. Overfishing, warmer waters, it all adds up.
And I bet that impacts the cost of things like tuna, right?
Absolutely. Coastal communities that rely on fishing, they get hit hard.
So this really isn't just some ocean problem. It affects all of us.
Precisely. Our
Yeah.
health, our well-being,
Yeah.
it's all tied to the health of the ocean.
And that's why it's important to understand these impacts, right? Like, I know climate change is a big factor. What about the ocean becoming more acidic? How does that play into all of this?
It's a huge issue. Basically, as the ocean absorbs more carbon dioxide, the water becomes more acidic.
Yeah.
And, well, for creatures like shellfish, it makes it harder for them to build their shells.
Oh, wow. That's a big deal.
It is. And then there's the chain reaction. Like with phytoplankton, it disrupts their ability to thrive. And remember, they're the base of the whole food chain.
Right, right. So climate change is a major disruptor. Okay, now I'm curious about those apex predators. You know, the ones at the top. The sharks, the orcas.
Those often misunderstood creatures.
Exactly. What's their role in all of this?
Crucial. Despite the scary reputation, they actually keep the ecosystem in check.
In check. How so?
Well, they help regulate populations of other fish. Think of it like wolves in Yellowstone, keeping elk populations in balance.
Okay, I get it. So if we take out the apex predators...
Things can get out of whack. Some fish species will explode in number, and that can lead to overgrazing on the plankton. You know, the foundation of the whole system.
Like taking the conductor out of an orchestra, everything falls apart.
Precisely. A domino effect. It really highlights just how important each link in the chain is.
Wow, this is all fascinating stuff, but it's a bit sobering too. Is there any hope for turning things around? I mean, are there solutions out there that can help restore this balance?
There is hope. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of the incredible work being done to protect this vital food web.
Okay, I'm ready for some good news. So what solutions are out there to protect this food web?
There's actually a lot happening, from community efforts to new technology.
That's great to hear.
Remember those marine protected areas we talked about? The MPAs?
Yeah, the no fishing zones.
Well, they're a big part of it. But it's not just about no fishing zones anymore.
Really? What else is there?
It's getting more sophisticated. Some MPAs focus on protecting specific habitats, like coral reefs, seagrass beds.
Oh, I see.
Those act like nurseries for tons of fish species.
Makes sense to protect them then.
Right. And others, they manage fishing in a more sustainable way.
So some fishing is allowed.
Yeah. but in a way that protects the whole ecosystem. It's about finding a balance. Yeah,
A balance between conservation and letting people fish.
exactly.
Oh.
And the really successful MPAs, they involve everyone, scientists, local communities, even the fishing industry itself.
So it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, it has to be. Finding solutions that work for everyone.
That makes sense. If everyone's on board, then it's more likely to work long term. So what about fishing outside those MPAs? Can that be made more sustainable?
For sure. We talked about bottom trawling, right?
Yeah.
How destructive it is.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, there's this movement towards different fishing gear, stuff that's less damaging.
Like what?
For example, they use traps or pots. Instead of those huge nets
Okay.
in those traps, they only catch specific species.
So they're not just scooping up everything?
Right. No unnecessary harm.
That's good. I mean, less bycatch, right? Fewer accidental catches.
Exactly. And there's other cool innovations, too. Long lines with circle hooks. Those are less likely to hook sea turtles or sharks.
Oh, that's good.
And fishing nets with escape panels for the little fish.
It's encouraging to hear that the industry's changing.
It is.
Yeah.
And you know what's playing a big role? Technology.
Technology.
Yeah, remember those satellites we talked about? The ones that track illegal fishing?
Uh-huh.
Well, that data, they're using it to create these monitoring systems.
Monitoring system.
Yeah, like they can alert authorities to suspicious activity in real time.
So it's harder for illegal fishing to go undetected.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
having a watchful eye over the ocean.
That's amazing. Technology is a powerful tool. Are there any other ways they're using it for ocean protection?
All sorts of ways. Underwater robots, DNA analysis.
Wow.
We're getting a much clearer picture of what's happening down there, to develop the best conservation strategies.
So it's about understanding how it all works, to know how to protect it.
Exactly. We need that knowledge. Oh, and what about microplastics?
Yeah, any progress there? With technology, I mean.
Some really interesting stuff. They're developing bioplastics that break down naturally.
So no more plastic hanging around for centuries.
That's the idea. And there are groups working on removing the plastic that's already out there.
Oh, that's good. Like cleaning it up.
Yeah. Organizations like the Ocean Cleanup, they're developing these huge systems to collect plastic from the surface. It's a big task, but they're making progress.
It's good to hear there are so many people working on this.
Yeah. And it's not just scientists and engineers. Remember citizen science?
Oh, yeah, everyday people helping out.
Exactly. There are programs everywhere. Volunteers can collect data on all sorts of things. Whale sightings, plastic pollution.
So anyone can contribute.
Absolutely. Even something simple like reducing your plastic use or choosing sustainable seafood. It all makes a difference.
Right, because we're all connected to the ocean no matter where we live.
Precisely. It provides so much for us. Oxygen, food, climate regulation. It's essential.
So it's not just about protecting those things for ourselves, but recognizing how important the ocean is for all the life it supports.
That's the key. We have a responsibility to care for it, this planet. And that responsibility includes this food web, the one we've been talking about.
And protecting that web ultimately protects us, too. So there's hope, but it takes all of us working together.
Exactly. It's a global challenge, and we need global solutions. But the good news is there are people all over the world working on those solutions.
Well, that's inspiring, but I think it's important to bring it back to the individual. What can our listeners do to make a difference? So we've gone on this journey through the ocean's food web, learned about the delicate balance, the threats, but what does it all mean for us, for everyday people? What can we actually do?
Right. The big question. It's easy to feel overwhelmed with these big issues, but even small actions, they can make a difference.
I like that, focusing on those actions. So where do we even start?
Well, we talked about being conscious consumers, right? Let's unpack that a bit.
Okay.
It's not just sustainable seafood, although that's important. It's about thinking about the impact of all the stuff we buy.
So using our wallets to support businesses that are doing things right.
Exactly. Look for companies minimizing their impact, reducing waste, sourcing responsibly.
So doing a little research before we buy.
Yeah. And sends a message to the market,
Putting our money where our mouth is, literally. Okay, what about plastic? It feels like it's everywhere.
It is a huge problem. And it's not just the plastic we see on beaches. Those microplastics, they end up in our food.
Right, those tiny pieces.
Yeah. And it all starts with our reliance on single-use plastics. Straws, water bottles, bags.
All that stuff adds up.
It does. Plus, making plastic contributes to climate change. Ditching those single-use items, it's a win-win.
So bringing our own containers, reusable bags, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And supporting businesses that are reducing their plastic use. Every little bit helps.
Okay, so conscious consumerism, ditching single-use plastic. What else can we do?
Get involved in your community. Support local organizations working to protect our oceans. Volunteer, donate, spread the word.
Power in numbers.
Absolutely. And speaking of spreading the word, education is key.
Right. Tell our friends and family what we've learned.
Exactly. Share those cool facts about phytoplankton, krill, even whale poop. More people understand, more likely we are to see change.
Knowledge is power, and sometimes a conversation is all it takes.
It can be. And don't forget about voting. Support candidates who prioritize the environment.
Right. Hold those officials accountable.
Exactly. Our voices matter. We need to use them. You know, I bet some listeners are thinking, well, I live far from the coast. Does this even apply to me?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
It absolutely does. Remember, we're all connected. The choices we make, even inland, they impact the ocean.
How so?
Fertilizers, chemicals we pour down the drain, plastic we throw away, it all ends up in the water system. And eventually, the ocean.
So even if we don't see the ocean every day?
We're still part of the same system.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
We're all upstream from somewhere. So even in the middle of the country, our actions have an impact.
Okay, so we've got conscious consumerism, less plastic, community involvement, education, political action, and remembering that we're all connected. Anything else we should add to our plan?
I think the most important thing, don't lose hope. It's easy to get discouraged, but despair isn't an option.
Hope is what keeps us going.
Exactly. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay hopeful.
Yeah.
You know, seeing other people taking action, that's inspiring.
It really is.
Let's celebrate those wins, big or small. Share those stories. Remind ourselves we're not alone. There are people all over working to protect our oceans.
Beautifully said. I think that's a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive. We've explored this incredible world, its fragility, its resilience, and the hope that lies in collective action.
It's been quite a journey. As we sign off, one last thought. The future of our oceans, of our planet, it's in our hands. Every choice, every action, it matters.
So we leave you with this question. What role will you play in protecting this amazing system we all rely on? The answer, it's within each of us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those ocean currents flowing in your thoughts.